factor is to improve the capability of, how can I say, to describe the spatial explicit representation of how these indicators insist over coastal areas and marine waters, and try to improve the timeliness and the accessibility by users of this information through not only the implementation of the pilot service, but also through the web interface that will be shown later. So, as anticipated by Manuela, in the next, there is our pilot case study area, which is the North Sea. The North Sea is well known for its past and still ongoing eutrophication events that still occur. And along with other marine regions in the world, it shares the same pressure of the increasing seawater acidity. So just a few general references in the next slide about the North Sea, as it is located in Northern Europe as an epicontinental seas, and its natural environment provides and sustains a very healthy ecosystem, providing then in cascade a number of services to human activities as well. Nevertheless, as I said, it's experiencing since a long time a number of anthropogenic pressures deriving from both land and sea usages, along with the imposed pressures from the climatic changes. So in the next slide, as a final point, is the idea of the service itself, which is to provide a portable system that we rely on the freely available Copernicus marine data to increase the accessibility of the indicators and make potentially the system scalable to other different marine regions. And now we'll pass the floor to Dimitri, who is going to go in more detail about how the service is structured and how the service is going.
Sorry about that. I hope that you can hear me well. My name is Dmitry Kondrik. Good afternoon, everyone. I will continue this presentation with first of all, with a brief description of the service design itself. Basically, this service consists of three main parts. First one is a data storage system, which is deployed on the dedicated web platform, and where we store, first of all, of course, the input data from the Copernicus Marine Service, but as well as intermediate results of our computations, and finally the resultant netcdf files and arrays and maps representing the indicators for the acidification and eutrophication. The second part is basically the main part, which is automated processing workflow, which is again deployed on the same web platform and organized as a series of Jupyter notebooks, and where we store all our functions, and which also is accessible through the GitHub page of the project. And we constantly developing this workflow even now. So the third part and the final one is the part which is developed specifically for the users who are not familiar with the programming languages, where basically it's a user interface where user can see the maps showing the calculated indices, and can navigate through the different parameters. So I will very briefly touch the input data. Basically, we mostly use two types of data. One is the Northwestern Shelf Marine Forecasting Center analysis, which spans from 1993 to the present. It has 7 kilometers spatial resolution, and in case of acidification, we use a monthly temporal resolution, and in eutrophication, we use a daily resolution. As regarding the variables, we use seawater pH, obviously, for the sea surface acidity, and chlorophyll concentration with diffuse attenuation coefficient as an input data for eutrophication indicator. And also for the eutrophication, we additionally use the satellite data provided also by Copernicus Marine Service, originally produced by the Globe Color project. It spans from 1998 to present. It has 1 kilometer spatial resolution, and from this type of data, we extract the chlorophyll concentration values. So as I mentioned before, we have the workflow deployed on the dedicated web platform, and basically it's organized as a series of Jupyter notebooks. And again, as I mentioned before, it also all this code is duplicated on the GitHub repository for those who are interested in going deeper in the code. And also, I will give more details on the workflow itself in the next breakout session 1. So I will not stop here for a very long time. It's just to show you how it looks in the backend. So regarding the scientific part, the workflow itself, the acidification workflow can be divided by several steps. First, we extract the input data, cropping to the chosen domain and the period of study. Sorry. Then deriving the annual pH values from the monthly data, also monthly and annual values of hydrogen ion concentration, which is a more straightforward representation of the acidification because it has positive sign with the ongoing acidification. Also, then computing the difference between the two chosen data sets, year plus months for monthly and year only for in case of annual difference. And also, finally, we create some maps of difference in pH and H plus concentration. And what is important, we also produce some trends, which I will explain later. So regarding the datasets and maps generated by this workflow, as I mentioned before, we produce the monthly fields of hydrogen ion concentration as an alternative representation. The fields of difference between the pH and H plus on monthly and annual scale, and also a field of linear trend coefficients for each pixel of the input data for the chosen period, and based on all intermediate values, means yearly values, not only start and end year. So here are just some examples of the output maps that are produced within the workflow. Here we can see the annual difference between year 2010 and 2020 in pH and H+. And what is important here is that while most of the indicators only assess the global averaged pH values as a one value, but in our project we performed an attempt to do the special maps to better understand the patterns of the acidification. In terms of trend, as I mentioned before, we also implemented in the workflow the calculation of trend, which takes into account all the intermediate years. And here are some examples. And from these pictures, which is comparison between the period 2000 and 2020 and 2010 and 2020, we can see that in some parts of the North Sea, for example, the rate of acidification may increase, and whereas in some parts, such as northern part, it can even decrease. So we believe that this data representation also gives us additional information regarding the acidification process. So to continue with the eutrophication workflow, it is also organized in a similar way. We first process the input data and then start the actual workflow by deriving the satellite-like chlorophyll over the model data, organized in 3D layers by integrating the data within the productive layer, which is important in terms of consistency with the satellite data, and also in general because we need the information over the whole photic depth instead of some separate layers. Then we continue with computing the daily 10th and 90th percentiles of chlorophyll concentration values. For the reference period, by default, it's 1998 to 2017. And then we determine the trophic status of marine areas by comparing the daily chlorophyll concentration of a given year with these percentile thresholds. And finally, for the days, for the amount of days higher than 25% of the year, we conclude that this state is eutrophic for the values higher than 19th percentile and oligotrophic for the values below the 10th percentile. So as a data sets and plots generated by this workflow, we obtain daily satellite like chlorophyll as an intermediate step. Daily percentile fields for the chosen periods, again, is an intermediate step. That's why it's not included into the user interface, which I will show later. Also, we even obtain the amount of days below or above the percentiles for possible future adjustment of the index calculation methodology, because current threshold is 25% of days, but it can be adjustable. So as a result, we finally get the annual eutrophication index, and now also in development we have the monthly eutrophication index, and also chlorophyll trend maps for the future implementation of the so-called NEAT index of eutrophication, which can be considered as an alternative representation of the eutrophication. So here are again some examples of the output maps from this workflow. By comparing each map for each year, we can see some differences, but also some stable patterns in terms of the eutrophic or oligotrophic state of the waters. And also we have, because we have two input data sets, we can also compare them in terms of the, again, the consistency between two data sets, and also try to analyze them separately and find the differences. Also, as I mentioned before, we have these indicators in development, including the feedback obtained from the previous user uptake webinar. So on the left two figures, we can see the monthly eutrophication index, because end users requested possibility to assess the monthly state of the waters in terms of eutrophication, and we have performed this attempt. And here we can see, of course, there is much bigger variability in terms of the special pattern, but on the other hand, we have the possibility to assess the eutrophication state on a monthly basis. So on the right hand figure, we also can see chlorophyll linear trends from annual maximum field based on monthly satellite data, which, as I said, needed for calculation of different eutrophication indicator, which is based on combination of this trend coefficient and also the absolute averaged values of chlorophyll. And so yes, by assessing this, we can get the alternative point of view on eutrophication. So I already close to finish. So I will now show you some example of the user interface, some demonstration by going through this link. I hope you still can see the UE.
Yes,
so
we do.
Here, thank you. So here we can see the overlaying map, and on the left panel we can have the possibility to choose the years, for example, for acidification. We can state the starting year and end year, and calculate the monthly, for example, difference between January of 2010 and 2022 for the pH. So just after a few seconds, we will see the result. Yes, now we can see the result. And first of all, we can see the map with the color bar on the top right panel. And also, if we click on the some areas, we can even see some point-wise data with latitude, longitude, and value of the changes. And just to briefly also show you the difference in annual pH hydrogen ion concentration, I also run the other option. And while it's running, I also wanted to say that there is a possibility to download the data in the form of both netcdf file containing all the information and also the PNG images as maps. So soon it will finish running, I hope. Yeah, now we have the map of hydrogen ion concentration difference on an annual basis between 2010 and 2022. And here we again can even click the difference. And as for eutrophication, I will also try to briefly show you the difference. So for example, for the model data, if we choose some year, the standard reference period here is 1998 to 2017, and we're now trying to calculate the eutrophication index for this year. So this is based on the model data, and let's just show the other year for satellite data. And again, we have the possibility to download the results as NetCDF files and PNG images, similar to those I showed during the presentation. And also we have here the link to the pilot website with the description. So yes, here we can see the map of eutrophication and oligoeutrophication areas for the year 2022. Okay, so I will choose this. And yeah, as a next steps forward, we were planning to do at least 3 things in general to evaluate the potential of integration in situ pH data within the Marine Forecasting Center outputs through nudging techniques, which means that we also include the in situ values to our assessment, deploy the computation of marine eutrophication by using recent methodological approaches, and integrate in the user's interface the workflow developments from the last activity sprint, which is the monthly eutrophication, the NEAT index, and all the others. And of course, we are looking forward to your feedback and discussion of this methodology. I hope I wasn't too long. So that's it. I guess I should end here.
Thank you very much, Dimitri and Thomas, for this very clear and comprehensive presentation. So based on your presentations now, I would like to invite our audience first to say if you finally see my screen with the Mentimeter code. And
yes, it's perfectly.
Thanks, Florin. So if you can kindly join Menti with this code. And I have a couple of questions that I would like you to reply to you, which we kind of also support us into launch the next step of the webinar, which is indeed the moderated panel discussion. So I would love to see which organization you are representing today. ModNet trade organizations. Perfect. Okay, so I see we are a little bit more, so I will wait. Anybody else? Okay. Oscar, fantastic. Conicet, Argentina. Wow, that's amazing. So not just European representations, but global representation, which is always very nice. I will move to the next one about where you're joining the webinar from. But we already have some hints, so this can also, okay, France. Okay, very nice. Albania indeed, UK, Spain, Argentina. Wow, thanks. Okay. Oh my God, sorry, that was too far. Okay, so what do you think is the main beneficiary of the pilot service presented in this webinar today? Based on this presentation, we can of course have different beneficiaries, users, which can stem from private sector, public, regulatory service, government. So, okay. I see where this is going. Okay. Okay, so the majority, okay, is moving towards the regulatory component. To go into a more little bit technical questions, which typology of SDG monitoring indicators would you prefer to access? And if there is any questions related to this, I will let Thomas and Dimitri reply to this. Okay, thank you. Okay. And then the final questions, I think it's indeed, what are your expectations from this webinar? What will you would like to gather from this webinar and to leave it with. Okay, discover technical knowledge. Indeed, well, this is really the place to be as we wish to uptake these solutions towards other communities. But it is also followed by best practices, absolutely, equally. Okay. All right. And moving to the last one, to what extent are you familiar with this pilot service discussed? Are you already aware of other tools? Are you already aware of other similar methodologies already developed? Or is it something completely new that you are discovering for the first time? Okay, that's really good. Okay, so Monica, this gives us already some topics for your discussion now.
Thank you very much, Francesca. Yes,
So,
indeed. Yeah.
I will stop then, Monica, these questions. For sure, you can continue to reply, and we will gather all the different insights. But I will then give the floor indeed to my colleague Monica Miguel Lago from ERSC. She will be our technical moderator today, and she will indeed introduce now our moderated panel discussions. So thank you very much, and Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca, and thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So yes, we are moving now to more informative discussion, and also complemented with a different typology of communities. So the idea is that this is not only for this panel here. We will also call people from the audience. Some people already agreed to have a contribution and also to complement the discussions. But let's start to introduce a little bit what we are expecting here. We expect to discuss about the challenges and opportunities for monitoring and reporting on the Sustainable Development Agenda, concretely with SDG 14, but also we would like to see this building on this dynamism of scientific purposes. So there are a lot of research going on, but then it needs to be operationalized. So we will jump also how to make this process. So we have on board perspectives from the government. So we will try to look into the national authorities approach and also ensuring this alignment with existing country policies, but not only, also looking into European context or also international. We will try to understand how datasets like the Copernicus marine services are supporting this global ocean monitoring. We will look into the industry innovation, how the private sector is enabling these transitions from research to operationalization, but also we will have collaborations that we would like to highlight, how private sector is collaborating with research institutes, and these research institutes are collaborating with the national statistical offices. So this is a very nice approach to see how different countries are approaching the SDG monitoring and reporting. And looking also to who we could invite from the audience, we will take a look into the EMONnet. So we will have also an overview how in situ data, other data sets are complementing the Copernicus Marine Services. We will have the international approach like the Geo Blue Planet flagship, which is also will give this international dimension and collaboration of opportunities. And we will also move a little bit more in a region perspective from the Helsinki Convention. So moving into this into the panel, I would like maybe to go for first questions to each of these panelists. And I will start with Lilian. Lilian is an information management advisor from the Water Soil Affairs at the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management in the Netherlands. She works in the SDG for Water Affairs, where policies are developed on water. Her role within the data innovation and strategy focuses on identifying opportunities and advising on innovation solutions that improve how these decisions will be made in the future. So she's very interested in these data-driven approaches for water management. So Lilian, a very generic question for you, but from your institutional perspective, what might be the challenges you have, but also opportunities from using this type of tools presented? So looking into these data methodologies, platforms to be embedded into your decision policy understanding.
Thanks for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. It was a very insightful presentation, so thank you for that. The biggest opportunities I see is in the scalability and adjusting it for other waters, and that's your plan at least. So I'm looking forward to how that can be implemented, and I really like the transparency and openness you have with your everything on your platform, with the code and download options for the data, and that's very important also for user confidence in the tool, to see how it's made, to see what's built off, to use its data. And I like that it gives monthly insights and trends that were not possible on this scale before without the use of Earth observation data. I see some challenges with integration, mostly with integrating it in existing processes and tools, and how the SDGs are currently reported. So that's the things that I would like to see. How can you propose, how can you implement it in what's already there? And the user interface, looking at my colleagues, it would lead a lot of more explanation on how to use it, and to use it in policy making, it would need to be very user friendly, and I think that some adjustment could be made there for more clarification. So, but it was very good to see what's already done in the pilot, and it looks very promising.
Thank you so much, Lilian. It just maybe an alongside question. Do you already have in the ministry some experience with Earth observation or satellite-derived data, integrated that in other set of policies?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Mostly on water quality, but it's mostly on land. For example, SDG-6, it's already used. But at sea, there are a lot of gaps in the data. So it helps to see and get new information and data to fill in those gaps. But we're also experimenting with EO data, Earth observation data, for several kinds of water management reports, water quality, but it's growing. So, and we have in our ministry, we have a specialized team for Earth observation, and they also help the whole organization with possibilities and using these types of data. So.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very insightful to see how the government is also, well, let me say, enthusiastic to be coming to these meetings, and also try to understand a little bit more how they could integrate later on for the policy decision. So let's move to the data provision. So, and also what, for instance, the entrusted entity Mercator Ocean International has been doing. So let me introduce Tina Silovic, is a project officer at Mercator Ocean International. She's dedicated to expanding the use of Copernicus marine data for sustainable ocean management. She has a PhD in oceanography, and she leads activities within the Copernicus Marine National Collaboration Program, and also fostering a stakeholder engagement, so, and strategic partnership. So I think it is very good to have you, Tina, on board, also because this is a kind of stakeholders discussion. So I think it's going to be very enlightening also to see your other experience gathering different group of people. So look, going back, like the same question that I made to Lilian, for me, it's important to understand also, but now from the provider of core data sets somehow, what are the challenges and opportunities you see to integrate these data sets into this policy decision making from the experience that you have with this engagement, stakeholders or users?
Hello everyone, and thank you for the invitation to this very interesting webinar. So basically, from the perspective of the Copernicus Marine Service, as much as we have a lot of data, we basically always need more data. So this is one of the issues that there is a huge data gaps, particularly when we want to address such topics as ocean acidification, and also the concerning the availability of the data within exclusive economic zones. So many nations lack the resources to conduct extensive in situ monitoring. So this leaves substantial gaps, and then according to this, there is a need actually to have more data. But then again, any kind of the data that it's going, whether it's a satellite data or it's in situ data or it's a model data, it really needs to pass through certain validation. So to be included in Copernicus Marine Service, any data needs to pass. It needs to be scientifically validated, so it needs to pass a certain quality. So it takes time basically to include the data. But from our point of view, since obviously we want to have more data, we want to have more high resolution data that it's really concerning coastal regions. One of the ways that we are trying to support having more data is also having different calls for tenders by which we are trying to have people applying with the different products. So one of them for the products are our R&D calls for tender that are going published, I think, every 3-4 years. And then we are also supporting some downstream services, as we call them, or downstream meaning that you have application that is using Copernicus Marine data, such as this platform. And then they are developing tools and services applied to used by governments or national stakeholders or other stakeholders. I mean, also supporting them because obviously, as already mentioned by Thomas, there is this free and open Copernicus Marine data, and we want this data to be used. So we are kind of core providers, but we want better data, more data, and we also want this data to use. So this is somehow a way how we are trying to make things better.
Mm-hmm. And it's also very exhaustive from the Mercator Ocean, the interaction that you have with the end users. I mean, who is really using the data, but also you see difference between the user could be the scientific community, but also, for instance, Lilian representing the government. So do you see slightly differences in this, for instance, academic, government, or private sector thinking in fisheries or aquaculture?
Yes, basically the difference is huge, basically, because first of all, we tend to say that we have intermediate users and end users. Intermediate users for us are really like users who know how to use this data, because this data come in a certain format. You can it's a net CDF that was already mentioned previously. So it's a common format that anyone knowing how to deal with this data can use. So this is mostly applying to companies or to academic environment people. So obviously we have certain capacity development activities and training that we are either supporting or having subcontractors to lead them, or we are trying to develop them from our own premises. So people can easier use this data, and then they develop either the service that it's going to be paid if we are talking about industry, or to develop a service that are going to publish certain papers and go towards scientific advancement if we talk about academia. And then we are also trying to address these policymakers which are really like end users. So they could use these services developed by intermediate users. But they could also use some reports that we also have. For instance, we have ocean monitoring indicators that are kind of snippets of the information that can already be used. We also developed for Eurostat these two indicators for ocean acidification and eutrophication. And we also have, we are also in development of the dashboard, really developed for policymakers, so we can address their needs a bit better. The kind of challenge is that as we have data that applies different regions, so there is a global data, there is data addressed to different regions, like North Sea, Mediterranean, Arctic. So then you have a bit different needs, different challenges, and different requirements. So it's a bit challenging to address, but we are doing our best.
Thank you very much, Tina. I'm going to move also to Mercator Ocean, but with Audrey, which is a contributor that we have online. Audrey Hanson, I will know that is Executive Director of the Head of European Office at Mercator Ocean, but here she's more with the representing the Geo Blue Planet flagship. So Audrey, maybe you could tell us from that role, how this type of pilots, this research, these ongoing activities are aligning with the existing global efforts from the ocean health monitoring that maybe GeoPlanet is representing.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you to the SDGs-EYES for the invitation to this panel. So first of all, GeoPlanet is a global initiative. We work on different topics. We don't have anything right now on acidification, but we work on eutrophication. And the way we work is that we're really trying to bring the science for the benefit of society. And one way of doing this is through indicators, because that's one very important tool. So we work solely or with, as Tina was saying, we're not directly working with end users, but we working with end user representative, and most of our user representatives are from the UN. So in the case of eutrophication, we're working with the UNEP because they're the custodian agency for the SDG on eutrophication. So what we've done in the past, and that's, you know, about probably 5 years ago, we've brought together a group of experts on eutrophication, and they've worked together for and with UNEP to be able to provide a methodology for an SDG indicator that has become the official UN SDG indicator for eutrophication. But this means that we are moving away from, I would say, research grade indicators that you guys would be providing towards something that fits into the box that the UN decides. And the box is basically the same for all the SDG indicators. And this is where, you know, it gets a little bit complicated. But what I can say is that they're really, you know, all these different indicators, the one that Eurostat are doing, the one that you guys are doing, and the one that GeoPlanet has been doing for the UN, they're really complementary because we are required from the UN an indicator that is global, but we, as you know, most of us are here oceanographer, we know that this doesn't work for the case of eutrophication because the regions are really different and the causes for eutrophications are really different, and the tools that we're using, actually even satellites, will not have the same resolution at high latitude and lower latitude. So there is this plethora of different reasons why we need to basically downscale from the UN official SDG indicator that we're providing UNEP towards more localized and I would say scientific grade indicator, but we absolutely should not miss the link between them. So that would be my comment here, is that we absolutely need to make sure that what you're doing is, you know, done in connection to what is doing at the Eurostat level and what is done at the UN UNEP in that case level. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Odo, because your comment is excellent. I mean, having these I will say umbrellas of programs or agendas itself, and how they are complementary, and also the specific role of oceanography itself and the different type of waters and regions. So that brings me maybe to the also another audience speakers, and I would like to call Connor Delaney from the EMONnet. He's advisor of the Marine and Ocean Data Expert Group. So it's more maybe into the in situ component or maybe other data sets. So maybe here from your perspective, Connor, how do you see these data gaps and challenges, or maybe complementary data sets that we need to put into these models? Could you let us know a little bit your perspective into this and to that, and also maybe if you want to stand a little bit more on the harmonization, how complex is this?
Do we have all day?
No, then we forget the harmonization.
Okay, I'm the technical coordinator of EMONnet, and this is a very interesting question. This is great. Thank you very much for inviting me along here. This is interesting to see what's going on. one of the things we have in Europe is that we produce a lot of data, and it's stored on a fractured landscape. It's in silos everywhere. And one of the things, I'm getting to your point, but I'm getting there, is that ourselves in eModNet and Copernicus Marine, for example, are working together to solve this problem. And it came to mind when I saw the wonderful Jupyter notebooks presented earlier on, and the results from them. This is exactly the type of user we're trying to service. And to that end, we have built a data lake, and you guys all come from the Earth observation community. We're using technologies that you would be familiar with, the type of technologies that were used by Amazon and Google to make big data available. We're using similar technologies for marine data from, in our world in eModNet, it's in situ observations and specialized data products, and in the big data equation where we meet the variety V of the V's of big data, whereas our colleagues in Copernicus Marine, they're using Earth observation and ocean modeling, so they hit the volume V in the big data specification. And we're moving all these data products into one data center. We've already done it, and you will then be able to, you can log into this data center and run your Jupyter notebooks right beside the data. And that's what struck me when I saw the presentation later on from your colleagues, that one of the problems we've had in Europe is that just to get to the level where you're building products to advise policy people, you have to build lots of foundational steps to get to the level where you're running your analysis. And for us, with the DITO project, the European Digital Twin of the Ocean Infrastructure Project, ourselves and Copernicus Marine are trying to make sure that those steps are common, are removed, they're gone. People don't have to build those anymore. They can just come in, log into the system, and access our data products very close together and run these type of analysis, making it much easier for people to do the extra work. The real value is in doing the analysis and translating that analysis into policy advice. And while creating the infrastructure to do the analysis is interesting, it's IT work. You really want to be using your brains from your scientists and your policy advisors to make that easier. So from our perspective as well, this hits us as well in eModNet, because eModNet was built on top of this idea of a federated network. So our servers are all over Europe. So we're trying to consolidate things as well through the EDITO to make sure that it's easier and more that for users to get to our data, and for users to give us data, or for researchers to give us data, because we have somewhere to put it and we have somewhere to validate it, and we can publish it so it's faster, scalable and robust. Hopefully that goes some way to helping you understand.
I guess that you are bringing this topic of this European infrastructure for the digital twins in the ocean. There are many going on in research, but the one in the ocean. As a data collecting this data, I guess that you are looking for understanding which data improvements people would like to see. So yes. What will be the question to the people for giving?
I'm just picking one on the presentations that we saw. We have a product in eModNet on ocean acidification and acidity and eutrophication. It's aggregated data sets from in-situ observations. We would like to know, for example, would that type of data set be useful for this type of work? Is it being used? Because you're looking in this presentation, we were looking at model data sets against Earth observation, whereas we have in situ observations. And maybe the in situ observations were used in the models that were produced, that the comparison was done. But it'd be nice to know, and it'd be nice to put more emphasis on where the building blocks to get to the outputs, because that not only is it nice to the people who produce the data products, but it's also it's very helpful for the next generation of researchers. It makes it easier for them to stand on the shoulders of the people doing things now.
Yes, and certainly to identify the data gaps coming from satellite array, coming from in situ is really. I see all these models are already a combination of all these data sets. So thank you. Maybe we will come back to you on the
Just
on
one last thing.
Okay,
one more
sorry.
thing, just to emphasize
we have
here.
more people to talk.
And from the point of view of data services, the attitude now from the Commission is that the EMODNet is the DG MARI's data publication system, and Copernicus Marine is DG Deficits system. These are the pillars on top of which other things are built.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much confusion in the past with all these different platforms.
Yes, no, indeed. Yeah, and this is good to this clarification. I hope there's this type of meetings, and this is one of those. I mean, we are trying to discuss about this topic now when these SDGs-EYES pilots are already nice, mature state to be shown, but obviously there is a phase that we will probably do another activity in the next months about how we could build more on clarity about the different platforms.
And ways we can support work like this work that's doing what you're doing here. We always welcome any input on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move now to this tandem that I started to mention at the beginning. So we have a data provider from the private sector. So it's Paola Di Lora. She's technical specialist on geoservice from Planetech Italy. She's an environmental engineer and specialized in data science. She's also within the Planet, is involved in the Blue Horizon team. And they are focused on this design, implementation, and development of Earth observation services and applications for marine and coastal environments. So as any industry or private sector is really involved in translating this pilot research into the operationalization. So going to this first question that we have to the other speakers, a little bit more generic, which are the key challenges and opportunities you are facing from your experience integrating these data sets into this official reporting? Because now you have been doing a test on this. Let us know your experience. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Monica, for your question, and thank you everybody for the very interesting presentations and discussion. Well, from our private sector point of view, there are both opportunities and challenges in the use of Earth observation for the estimation of these indicators. Starting from the opportunities, first of all, as was yet discussed, the scalability of the solution is a point of strengthness, of course, and this implies a low cost in the computation of the such indicators. Also, the UNEP guidelines encourages the use of remote sensing in the SDG computation. But another point of opportunity and strength of, that remote sensing brings in this sector is the possibility of use the cloud computing solutions that allows to manage a very huge amount of data in a way that is perfectly optimized. And this kind of platform, just the one we used in the human project, which is an ESA project in which we developed the indicators on eutrophication monitoring, was the Insula platform developed by CGI, our partner in the project. And in this platform, there is also the user-friendly interface, and where the user can easily compute statistics and see in the time series of data the trend of the water quality, and so the zone that are more eutrophic or oligotrophic and so on. About the challenges, I think that one of the more important challenges is the awareness of the potential of this kind of solution in the from the user point of view, because there is not a very large knowledge of this kind of sector in the public administration or NSO. And another topic that was yet touched from the previous speakers is the difficulty in the validation of this kind of indicator, because there are not the physical measure in situ campaign to measure this kind of indicators, but we can have a qualitative validation by validating the input data used to compute the indicators. And there is also a lack of in situ data also for the physical parameters like chlorophyll, pH, and so on. So I think there should be more effort in the in situ campaigns in this from this point of view.
Okay, so validate, the data set for in situ to validate the models. Yeah, okay, perfect. So I think it's very good to complement your question, inviting Michaela Kirchhoff from the Regional Environmental Center from Reich Albania, which is directly connection with the National Statistical Office in Albania. So we see here already three communities together, working together to implement something from the co-design approach, which I think is excellent. Also, SDGs-EYES with the pilot has been drawing this. So I see now this tendency to co-design much more, which I feel will bring this user uptake a little bit better. So Michael is the Director of Resource Environmental Albania, as I said before, a non-profit organization supporting the environmental policy development. So you, Michael, as a, somehow I will say, intermediate user, what are the challenges that you see so far into integrating these data sets or models, methods, or platform into the SDG reporting, this activity that you are already collaborating with the Statistical Office in Albania? And thank you for joining.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me part of this panel and this interesting workshop. Yeah, indeed, when we got involved into the EUMON project, we were looking, there was a gap into monitoring some of the SDGs parameters. We also checked with the National Statistical Office, and they were blank in terms of monitoring it. So there was an interest by the institutions. As Paula also mentioned earlier, the challenges of having in situ data from the monitoring program of the institutions was also an element that we thought it's an opportunity to bring those new tools and platforms at the country level in order to not only to fill in that gap from the lack of in situ data, but also to validate with what's going on in situ. For example, Adriatic, it's quite an interesting site from the very dynamic processes occurring there. Also, the impact of the inland waters, the rivers, into the eutrophication events that are happening there might also be connected to the statistics developed by the platform. So into this landscape of interests and motivations, we thought that we might be the intermediary to the statistical office, INSTAT it's called in Albania, as well as to some academia, Tirana University, Polytechnic University of Tirana, that might use the data for scientific research. And both those two subjects, two actors, are very important to developing marine policies for the country. So and it got very much interest. We were presenting them with the platform. We also were supporting the whole consortium with in situ data, what we were finding out in the country from the monitoring sets, as well as with events which were reported either by local agencies or media. So this helped both ways to develop further platform by in situ data, as well as to develop the country capacities at the institutions, at the academia, with those digital, let's say, tools that can somehow fill the gap. So it does have a very good support as an idea, as well as brings additional questions, how to better transform the data in a continuous way into the monitoring dashboard of SDGs that we have in the country. So it is sort of filling in feed in information at a continuous basis. So this is a process, I would say, that is enriched at this level by those tools, but needs further work both at the country level as well as the regional level that we are talking now.
Thank you, Michael. You are already giving these points about the complexity of the regions, also addressed by Audrey before with this global perspective, but also you're making this link with these intermediate users and also the final users with the policy decisions. So let me get back to some policy discussions now. And but before going to Lilian, let me also call in the audience. We do have a representative from the Helsinki Convention. I don't have an amazing. Yes, it's I know. And the Helcom, I know it's a data analyst from Helcom working from the Protect Baltic, which is part of the EU mission to restore the ocean and water. So I know, maybe from your perspective, from the Helcom convention, how do you see these products, these services? Have you already had some experience with those, or which is the perspective on the Balkan region?
Yeah, thank you so much also from my side for the excellent presentations. And in the Helcom area, so the Baltic Sea area, we have worked together almost 50 years now and come up with our own specially tailored indicators for eutrophication and acidification for the Baltic Sea, as it is a very special sea with its brackish water and shallow depth. And those do not, unfortunately, directly link to the SDG reporting necessities. But I think we have sent our indicators to UNEP, and they are now in the process of investigating whether they can be used directly in the SDGs assessment, because of course the country's opinion is, or their wish is not have to report the same thing in slightly different formats many times, but to be able to use one to monitor all, reports all.
Yeah. So I know from my understanding is that you are reporting using the EU methodology, so the UNEP directly. So you are not using Eurostat. This is the reality from the whole Helsinki Commission countries, or is okay? They are not duplicating this reporting.
No, there has been some confusion because, of course, the people who work with Baltic Sea and Helcom are not the same that to do the reporting for SDGs and to UNEP. So we are in the process of trying to coordinate how this process would be more smooth.
So thank you very much. I think it is an open, really follow-up for everyone. So we keep an eye on also your activities. So let's go back to Lilian now. Oops, I have some questions for you again. So we are now in the back to the ministry and how complex it is really to adapt new maybe technologies. So somehow. How do you are working already with the stakeholders? No, how do you collaborate to maximize the potential? Do you call expert groups to work with you in a different subject, or you, for instance, coming to this meeting, you have an alert in Earth observation to work with this data? So how is it the next process that you have in the ministry when it's something attractive to you, of course, for governance? Oh, sorry, Lilian, you are mute.
Sorry for the mute. At the moment, we have some different collaborations where alerts like, well, something interesting might be happening for you are shared. But we want to give that more coordination between ministries as well. So we're in the process of starting a Dutch Geo secretary where we can, inform other parties or interested governments or science about European or other initiatives that could be of interest to them, and vice versa. We can get questions that can be addressed on an international scale and well, speak them out or share them with these international organizations and initiatives like this. So we want to coordinate it more, and we're in the process of doing that, and we're very excited about it. And people are very enthusiastic. And about the you asked about implementing the things like this one and sharing it with stakeholders. That's a challenge because a lot is going on. From the other speakers as well, some shared some initiatives that are also very important. For example, we use a lot, work a lot with the OSPR things that's going on there, and it's important for us that there's a shared understanding of what are we talking about, what's going on, what's complementing each other, what can be used for what, because it's so much for policy making to keep track of what's going on that it's practically impossible. And you want to know from where can I go when I need information about this or about that. And it would be great if we have a digital twin of the ocean where this information could be found as well. So I hope we can take steps to that future.
Thank you very much. Maybe I saw Connor smiling with that. So maybe you want to share this smile. When do you have a timeline for the digital ocean, Connor?
Well, the European digital twin of the ocean infrastructure has been running since June of 2024. Next phase of Edito starts next month. You can log in, you can start using it. But the way the whole thing has been constructed, we only supply the data services and the infrastructure. It's up to the community to build on top of it. It's a very important. It's in the EMODnet as well. It's very important to understand that we don't do the analysis. We don't do the policy support analysis. We just do the heavy lifting in terms of creating the data sets and creating the aggregated data sets for Europe, so that our colleagues can use their expertise to build on top of that.
Thank you, Connor. My size was frozen. I hope that everyone hear you. I couldn't, but I hope that I will catch up with you on this. Let's try back to Tina on questions about Copernicus and also your experience, Tina. About how to reach more effectively the decision making, the decision makers. I mean, we have a lot of products. We have the digital ocean. How is needed really to make more effective this user uptake?
Well, I think that there is we can always do more because we are already doing a lot. We are trying to do a lot with different activities towards stakeholder engagement, with reporting, with this development of indicators, with capacity development activities, with calls for tender, with but we can always do much more. So basically, I think the communication and outreach strategies can be maybe more targeted towards specific topics, and also targeting specific information products. Since we mentioned digital twin several times, I think this would be a significant step forward because this initiative is going to certainly offer a powerful tool for visualizing and analyzing marine data, and making it more accessible and usable for decision making as well. Because what we are hoping there to have not only data and opportunity to visualize the data, but also having different services, and potentially these services can be also mirrored to different regions. So we need to, on our side, continue to invest in the tools that are more user-friendly for different audience, and that are address specific needs of decision makers. Obviously, also considering the region and the country they are coming from. So we are also trying to have more national focused activities. And always training and capacity building. It's going to empower decision makers to use the data and the tools that we are providing.
Mm-hmm. Can you? Yes, you can hear me now. Yeah. No, thank you. About this capacity building, I think already Michal presented this one needed from the decision making side. I assume that Liane, also from your side, capacity development, capacity building, maybe with the understanding how you use this data, how you integrate this data with the decision is also something that in the government of Netherlands you need on these approaches.
Yes, and also because capacity is scarce, it's important to share it and share those information and also work together on that. So that's and as we work a lot with the Netherlands Space Office, there's also a lot of knowledge about using this data. So when we have questions, we have a point to ask them.
Mm-hmm. And let me see, Audrey, I don't know, maybe you are still there. From the GeoBlue Planet initiative, have you facilitate programs, capacity development also? I cannot see you, maybe you're there or... No, maybe she's not.
I think she has left us.
She's left. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't see it. Okay, well, I was wondering about the initiatives that are at the geo level, if they are already providing this capacity development. Okay, so let's try get back to Paula and Michal on questions. Because okay, we have these potential users that are national statistical offices and also for this reporting. So, but Paula, how do you see other communities of users engaging with this type of eutrophication services or products?
Other communities, for example, there might be an interest from private sector for aquaculture plant, because monitoring eutrophication and the quality of the damage of the ecosystem related to the eutrophication is important also for the new plants for the aquaculture farm, but also for the plants that already are presented in the territory. So there might be an effort also, economic effort in the and an higher trust in remote sensing, because there is another opportunity that is not related to SDG, but it's something that policymakers can decide to use better this kind of data.
Okay, thank you, Michal. From your perspective, you address this topic of supported with capacity development programs. So are you expecting that maybe these pilots will have this capacity, or maybe that the governments facilitate this capacity development with new technologies?
It should be both, I guess. Should be both, but first, pilots should be more proactive at the first role as a component built up in the platform or the tool, in order to generate the proactive position of the countries or agencies. Because if the countries do not really understand how it works, it's very difficult to understand the importance and to get the right connections to people. I was also thinking that it's important to have capacity building programs which develop certain independency of the individuals using the program. If we build up capacities at one person, we somehow become dependent on that person, while the working force is very dynamic, agencies are changing a lot. So it should be not only user-friendly, but also a capacity developed there that can be used by any newcomer into the agency, into the National Statistic Office, or wherever he works in. especially, for example, in the academia and research, new students, PhD students might be jumping into the platform. They look at the guide videos, they look at the short online recorded workshops, for example, and they make use of it. So also the model of the capacity development programs should be somehow adjusted in order to be a sort of long-lasting support for end users.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. We are now closing. I remember that in the discussion we thought about possible sentence, but maybe let's try to resume in just one word. So to Lilian, Tina, Paula, Mikhail, and maybe Connor, I don't know if you have, I know it's still over there, but just one word. Will you resume something that you want to take forward with one word? So maybe start with Lilian. What will be the word that you pick?
Collaboration.
Okay, we keep it collaboration. Then we move Tina.
I would actually agree with the collaboration, because I think it's really important to have everyone on board.
Okay, thank you. So we are having a kind of Mentimeter online. So Paula?
Awareness.
Awareness. Mikhail?
I would say innovation, because that's
Innovation, okay.
an umbrella thing.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Connor?
I was going to say collaboration, but I'll say connection instead.
Okay, it's very nice. And then Aino?
Yeah, I agree with all the words said so far, but I'm gonna say development as well.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's a very great cloud of wording, just inspiring ones, maybe for the next phase of the discussion. So thank you very much. Really has been really insightful. Thank you to all of you. And now we move forward to Francesca to let us know what is next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Monica, and the very insightful gathering from our panelists. And indeed, we are now moving to the breakout room session. So we're going to have around 15 minutes of more technical discussions with a technical demo chaired by Dimitri and myself, and another breakout room which is about more end user insights chaired by Thomas and Michael and Monica. Sorry. So our colleague Lorin will now send us, let's say, to the breakout rooms. So in a couple of seconds, we should all see or send to the breakout rooms. Indeed, so you can do join and see each other on the other. Thank you.
Dimitri, sorry,
Oops.
the breakout rooms were running over, so we didn't manage to finish yours.
I'm really sorry if I didn't make it in time.
That's okay, no problem. Hi, everybody. So indeed, we were in our technical demo session, and we were actually Dimitri was actually showcasing us very interesting functions on how to compute, but unfortunately, we did not have enough time to finalize them. However, we know that from, it's some of the questions that I will ask you now with some still Mentimeters functions, but the audience can also be potential, test validation users of, these services with technical guidelines that can be followed both from a user interface or a technical perspective. So Dimitri, for sure, we will be able as well to gather more feedback. But as we are here, I would like just to ask the two representatives of the breakout room, so Thomas and Dimitri, a little bit if you have like 1 minute sentence of recap from your own session. So Dimitri, indeed, you are the first one for our session. So if you want to just quickly showcase what we have discussed.
I've just shown some of the functions as well as the description files where again I just wanted to use this opportunity to remind that all the users who saw my demonstration can also refer to this file to find all the information there. But yeah, we just saw some outputs of the functions and the structure of the Jupyter notebooks and how the backend environment is organized. So basically, I don't think that I have any more to add. I hope it was at least interesting for you.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you very much. I mean, if there is anybody from our room that wants to comment upon or further ask any questions, it's more than welcome to do so. I don't know if Connor already have some feedbacks. Otherwise, yeah, Connor raised hand. Indeed, go ahead,
Yeah,
Connor.
just one of the things. It was great to see the Atom platform being used.
Yeah.
I think Dimitri, you're using Earth observation data through I presume through the indexing system that's on the Atom platform.
Well, I'm afraid that I'm not directly responsible for the platform itself, because we have other partners within the project who are doing this platform for us. But sorry, you meant
so when you're doing your
have?
Earth observation data, how are you finding it? How do you find the data that you need for the Earth observation?
Okay, well, basically, in our case, we already had these nice data sets from the Copernicus Marine Service that we just uploaded to our own platform to do further calculations. And well, I guess, yeah, regarding the search, well, I don't think that actually there are so many different data sets in terms of, for example, satellite data, because we have certain amount of satellites, optical sensors and everything that we have usual products that provide the merged data, and so we can just use them for our purposes.
Yeah,
So
it's just the point is that, you know, one of the dividends of open data, I mean, open data from Europe and open data from America, is that Earth observation data, extremely valuable data, is free for us to use. But the problem tends to be discovering it, trying to find the bit you want. And I was just wondering if you had any insights on this. But it seems like you knew what you needed at the beginning, so you're able to build that from that way.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Connor. I think that we might have someone from our technical development platform in case if anybody wants to join and provide some more information. So it would be, I think Alessandro's here. Or maybe we can provide you more comments, Connor, on this also by email, of course.
No, it's all right.
It's all right.
I'm just trying to see if anybody's found anything new.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Dimitri. Thomas, your turn.
Yeah, so actually, I mean, it was, from my point of view, it was interesting, short but interesting discussion. We got a couple of interesting contributions from Philip Sakes from the OSPAR community and also from our panelist, Paula. Essentially, the discussion went around a bit, not really on the acidification itself, because there is a kind of consensus in the way the indicator is formulated, because it is pretty straightforward, while we will hardly have a way to directly, locally fix it, as it requires a higher level, probably, action to cut down the effect of CO2 accumulation in the atmosphere. While on the other case, for eutrophication, there is I would say, a much more open discussion still ongoing, in the sense that we picked up certain indicators within the project for the scope of the local reusability of the system, even though Philip wrote a nice example on the fact that applying the same indicator in North Sea may lead to the fail of detection of local eutrophication events. So that's a point that is suggested also to have a look at the way the OSPAR community has developed the COMPETE indicator, which is, if I'm not wrong, Philip, correct me, mostly relying on observational data rather than model data so far. If you want to speak, you're muted.
Yeah, Philip, feel free to comment.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I was looking for just to put my hand up, but yeah, it's actually a mix of data in the COMPETE tool. So we use Earth observation for chlorophyll there, and it was actually a lot of work prior to the assessment to find a data set that was appropriate for use in the North Sea, because it was the North Sea is very turbid. It has very strong tidal currents. very high levels of suspended sediment. And so we ended up actually using two algorithms, one developed by Argans for the Western OSPAR regions, so Portugal, Spain, and France, and one developed by Arbins in Belgium for the Greater North Sea region. And those methods have now been taken into the Copernicus production system, so they're now available in Copernicus, which we're really happy about. So we'll be able to use them in future. But yeah, so it's a mixture of in situ for nutrients and oxygen, and then Earth observation for chlorophyll. Thanks.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, Philip. Just a quick end on our discussion. On the other side, Paolo brought the example of the application of UN level indicators in Albania that demonstrated to be successful in detecting events, especially in collocation with relevant, I would say, human-related activities like agriculture sites, heavily portual areas, and also they found out a clear correlation with increase during the touristic season of river low of releasing nutrients due to the increase in the population for those periods. So that was kind of an interesting thing.
Thank you very much, Thomas and Dimitri. If any other comments or questions, please feel free to speak now. Otherwise, indeed, we will still have some possibility of interaction through a feedback form. I would still like to ask you to, and I will share my screen again, to reply to some final questions, actually. As you know, this, again, so please go to Menti, and I will quickly go through the questions that that I would like you to ask. So how this tool could be useful for your organizations. As you know, we are starting from a co-design approach. We are now in the user uptake, where we are really testing the different features of this platform to meet and discuss with users communities and understanding their needs and how this can be satisfied by these tools just presented today. And there is also a last mile, which is actually the exploitation as well of this service. So these questions are now a little bit more towards this indeed how the usefulness for your organization, and if any of you would like to know more about this and eventually follow up with the exploitation perspective. So in terms of usefulness, I see a lot of maybes, so perhaps we need to interact a little bit more with some of you, but also from a purpose of replicability. Would you like to be a validation user? We already had some validation users at the initial stage before the user uptake webinar, but we would like to know as well if from this webinar there were some other people interested to test with some more details these functions and provide us feedback. So even if just for curiosity, we will be able to share this to you. Maybe. All right. We have one. Perfect. We will manage to get the one person who wants to try them, Thomas and Dimitri then. And then indeed, would you like to be an exploitation user? What does this entail? It means that we would like to speak again with you from a more formal, indeed, exploitation perspective to understand if maybe some features of this modular component could be useful to your organizations. It's not. I mean, it's an initial exploitation, meeting with our work package leaders as well to understand what could be work for your organization or not. So it's actually very interesting to understand. We have one person who would like to be an exploitation user. Perfect. So I think we will keep the one for the moment then. And we will see who's this. And I think that's my final question is, what kind of challenges do you see using the service in terms of methodology, tool, and platform? So this is an open-ended question. So if you want to type any challenges do you foresee for the moment, it will be more than welcome. Thank you. And Thomas and Dimitri, if you have any comments already, you see the replies to any of this, you can join. Okay, so I don't see any challenges yet. Okay, so maybe understand the indicator basis. Okay. Any other challenges? I mean, I'm sure that through the different.
Let's wait a few seconds, maybe.
Yeah,
if
indeed,
I can start
indeed.
having a short comment on this, in the sense that when we did selected the indicators, we clearly went through the available ones, also from the UN system, from level 1 down to level 3. And we went through the definition of the indicator the way they were proposed, but clearly any type of indicators brings some limitation, because the way they were defined, they might be too strictly related to a specific environment, or they might not reflect exactly the need for representing the process that really drives eutrophication in a specific area. So, as for instance, Philip said before, the North Sea is a rather complex system from an hydrographical point of view, with tides pushing waters around, a lot of sediment being moved up and down by currents. So clearly, much simple formulation that might work in more, I would say, stable condition in terms of circulation, like the indicator based on river nutrient loads, may not be applicable there or in other parts of the world, also depending on the weather regime that they do have. So we may have large river runoff in the wrong season where there is no biological activity. So there is a number of, this is just an example. If we pick up then the one based on satellite chlorophyll, then we have a number of definition and operation that are done throughout with this data. So it can be done with averages, with medians, with statistical probabilities. So there isn't a clear consensus toward which is the way to operate this, but there must be an effort in moving forward and keeping up the discussion. Otherwise, we will still be behind on reaching a common way for monitoring eutrophication, even at a global scale. I mean, besides only the European framework, which is part of the project by far.
Thank you, Thomas. I will close here then our questions, and I think that Lorin, indeed, we are now moving towards the end indeed of the webinar. There are two more things that we want to share with you. So first is indeed we will be sharing with you a feedback form in order to gather a little bit what you've just put in the different questions Mentimeter, especially if we can contact you in order to continue the discussions with our pilot representative and the exploitation activities. And we will also would like to share with you that we hopefully see you to the next webinar, which is going to happen on the 15th of April. We're going to talk about extreme temperature and risks with a specific pilot on the city of Turin. So we hope really to see you again very soon. And Monica, do you have any other final comments that you want to share with us, as well as from a technical moderator component? Otherwise, we can also
thank you. Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think for me, it's easy to recap on this harmonization, research, collaboration, connection, awareness, innovation, development, all these words that the people was there saying. I think it is a nice summary. And also to thank you very much for your time. And
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for your active contributions, not only the panelists, but also really our audience that decide to share with us part of their work and their reality. So for sure, for all of us, it's been a real pleasure to hear all from you. We will also share the recording and the final report of the webinar. So by next week, we will you will find it as well online and by email. So I will then proceed to close this meeting. And again, I wish you a very nice evening. Bye-bye.